Hey guys, my name is Sal Shakir, and my story is a little different than most. I am an immigrant from the Middle East, and if you know anything about the Middle East, you can only begin to imagine the struggles we went through. After immigrating to the United States, and plenty of personal and financial hardships later, I finally reached my version of the American dream. The vehicle that helped me reach my financial freedom was real estate. Now, I run multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses, and I like to help others. That's why I'm here. If I can do it, so can you. Believe me. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll show you how. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to day 3 of 14-day challenge from hustler to CEO, aka scaling your real estate operation. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the list, the data that you need to market to. Just like we talked about the data as a bloodline of your business, but you have to understand that data is one of the most important pillars when it comes down to marketing. So we have to get that down before we start marketing. So there's really 5 steps, 5-step process into understanding what list you want to target, what data list that you need to target. Number 1 is identifying your target area. So it could be a state, it could be a county, it could be a zip code, whatever that may be, but just understand where you need to go after. Obviously, you have to identify a proper market, a good market that you need to convert deals in. Number 2, your niche list. What does a niche list mean? It's something that list has unique, or that lead in that list is unique. Meaning is if it's pre-foreclosure, that's a niche. That's pre-foreclosure niche list. If it's tax default, that's tax default niche list. If it's code violations, that's code violations niche list, obviously. So the third one is very simple, but it's actually one of the important steps to have is filter and organization, because you need to have a list today that you get and you market to. If you forget about it, you just have it somewhere in your email or you don't know where it is. When it's time to market to that again, you lose track of it. You don't know where it is. Now you have to pull a new list. Or if you need to pull a new list, you need to go back and say, okay, well, I marketed to this one. I need to go add on to that list. I need to go to a different list. You need to have something organized. You need to have a proper steps for your lists, because you can really lose traction of that very, very quickly if you don't start the proper way. And I'll show you how we organize our list. 4th one is skip tracing. And the 5th one is to prepare to market. That's when you deploy the marketing campaign. So the step right before that, you deploy it. Here's a simple graph into when you get your data. Let's say you get your data from ListSource, Listiva, ProspectX, or whatever. Now it's time to filter it. What does filtering it mean? When you download a list, usually you have a lot of columns in it. But really, what's the most important columns that you need to go for? It's probably the name, the address, the mailing address, and maybe the identifier of whatever that distress is. That's all really what you need, but anything extra might be extra. For marketing purposes, you don't need that. So you might want to delete that. So you start filtering it, you organize it properly. The second one is skip tracing it. So part of the filtration, you need to make it ready for skip tracing, because there are certain fields that you need to skip trace, like the name and address and whatnot. The last one is marketing format. What do I mean by marketing format? Well, for cold calling, I might need just the phone numbers. For direct mail, I need the mailing address, or if you're doing it the right way and going after the golden address, you need to delete everything, just keep the golden address and condense that. All right. So we actually achieve that. We achieve that through macros. There is macros that we use. You can find it at investorautomation.com, and it'll kind of just format things for you. But if you're savvy in Excel, you can do it yourself. There are certain things it's hard to do by yourself. So for cold calling, actually, we have something that we use called the phone compiler. So let's say you skip trace. Usually when you skip trace, there's average of 3 phone numbers. It could be one of those three numbers could be the homeowner, or it could be relatives, and whatever that may be. But I don't want to load it to the dialer as one name and 3 numbers, because the human error factor can come in. They can say wrong contact, and the 3rd number is the right one, and then by that time, I scratched that lead because I pressed something wrong. It could be the human error factor, could be someone is trolling us on the other line of the phone, and now I really miss an opportunity. So what do we do there? We actually run it through a macro called the phone compiler macro, and what it does is, let's say there is Sal, and there's 3 phone numbers in front of Sal. What it does is it creates 3 different Sals with 3 different phone numbers. It acts like each Sal is a unique lead, unique phone number. So if there is a mistake that happens there, or if someone's trolling or a human error factor, goes to the next one. No lead left behind while you're calling, you're doing whatever marketing channel that you're using it for. Seller list you should target. you have the big list that you want to go, and we have some filters for that. So there's something called the no data list. Now you would ask, why would I want to market to a no data list? What does that mean? Well, actually, data, it's not perfect. It's entered by someone. It's an $8 employee or $10 employee in the county entering information. Well, what if they missed information that wasn't entered? So there's some missing data. Well, it could be something that was done way before computers, so therefore there's no data for that. So that's a really, really big list that you could target, and it's actually a very fruitful list. Hey there, I hope you're enjoying this video as much as I am making it and the content that it contains. If you're just starting out, that is okay. I have a free book that you can download, and it'll give you the tools, the contract, the resources that you need to getting your first deal. And if you're not new in the business, you can always join my academy that has all kind of videos and accountability and courses that helps you to scale your operation. All right, guys, let's get back to the video. The second one, which is one of my favorite lists. Actually, before I talk about the second list, the filters, no data. What does it mean? It's unknown equity and no sales price. Obviously, not everything is unknown, but the specific things that's unknown in the filter is unknown equity and unknown sales price. What does that mean? When you're going to listiva.com for say, or ProspectX or ListSource, you're going in there and you're selecting the let's say you selected the city that you want to have leads in. Then you're gonna select unknown equity and no sale price. You leave that blank. If there is a blank input, it's gonna pull that list for you. Absentee, like I said, it's one of my favorite lists because that's the highest converting list we have. It means someone who does not live in the house. Someone lives away from that property. So usually we do 20% plus equity in that list. If you really want to do something really good with absentee, obviously if you're skip tracing, that third unique address is technically an absentee list as well. That's a skip trace absentee result. All right, so that's an extra filter you can go. Tax default, it means that they defaulted on the taxes, so tax delinquent. That means they're in some type of distress, so that's an indicator that they need to sell the house. Maybe a good need to sell the house. 20 plus years ownership, obviously it's just using that filter is someone who owned a property for 20 and plus years. Seniors, 55 plus. Always be courteous, of course, to our elderly. Be delicate, take care of them, don't take advantage of them, but it is a very, very good list as well. In this one, we're gonna be covering niche lists. The first niche list is a vacant. What does vacant mean? It means that someone does not live in that property. That property is empty, all right? The second one is probate. What does probate mean? So let's say I have a family member that died, and now I need to put the property in my name in order to sell it. That's called a probate process, to putting the property in your name. The legal term for that is probate. This is not inheritance. It's actually before I got to inherit the property, and someone already died before they were able to let me inherit the property. Pre-foreclosures, that means right before it goes to the auctions. Negative equity. Now you're gonna ask, why would I want to market to something that has no equity? That's what negative equity means. Like I talked about earlier, data is not perfect. The way it's gathered is not perfect. But if someone paid off their mortgage, it doesn't calculate that because it's really based on the amount of months that they figure out when the amount of loan and amount of months that's down the line, and they figure out how much there is equity in there. Well, a lot of times people pay down their mortgage. They pay extra toward principal. They pay it down, but it doesn't get reported, obviously, because it only gets recorded based on the sale date when they record it with a county assessor. So, or really is when they could have refinanced. Something could have happened at different interest rate or whatever that may be, and that wasn't reported. So that's actually a really, really fruitful list that people didn't go after because everybody was going after the equity, like 20% plus, 30% plus equity. Well, what about the negative equity? There could have been a lot of equity that was left behind. And remember, we like to be contrarians, just like the direct mail we talked about. You want to make the most amount of money with the least money out of pocket. How do you do that? When people are here, heavy here, you want to go here, because probably when you're going to make more money, you just spend less money. You spend less money out of pocket doing it. Inheritance, which I talked about earlier, it's if someone left the property for someone after they died, that's called inheritance. So that's a really good list. Code violations, obviously if the city violated someone for outgrowing grass or like broken windows or roof falling apart or whatever that may be, that's called code violations. So these are some resources that you want to look for to get these lists: Listiva, Successors Data, and Flip This Real Estate List. So those websites are a great resource to find these lists that you're looking for. All right, guys, hopefully this was informative. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and turn on your notifications. You do not want to miss the next one. I'll see you next.